I guess I should mention the talk, Achieving Recognition, GDG and You. And this is basically just how to promote, market, and basically I'm going to repeat everything everyone else said, much better than I will, but there's a cheat sheet. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I built one for you. You become an organizer, because obviously you got to start by being an organizer if you want your GDG to get recognition. And then of course, you've got to run an event. Otherwise, you're just a face on Meetup with nothing behind it. And after you run an event, there's that post-event form that you have to submit. And it's going to be amazing because you're going to want to run another event. And then of course, you're going to have to submit another form. And then the cycle will repeat. And then eventually it ends. 3 meetings, that's all it takes. You'll have recognition. Well, all right, maybe not exactly 3 meetings, but that's a simple cheat sheet. And as I was building it for you guys, and gals, and ladies and gentlemen, I was looking at it and it reminded me of a pattern I'd seen before. And so, as I mentioned, I love playing video games, and it's a pattern that you see in games all the time. And I'm like, well, this is pretty straightforward. Running a GDG is exactly like a video game. It's a live action role-playing game. It's amazing because it has all the elements of a live action role-playing game. You get to run events. You get to submit forms. You get to repeat yourself. It is amazing. And the goal, of course, of this game is to help organize a band of like-minded heroes to share knowledge with the local development community in which you live. And this is where it gets even better because you've already taken the first step to become an organizer. You're here at the GDG Academy. You're already an organizer. You've been an organizer for a number of months, weeks, years. The amount of time is irrelevant. You're an organizer. You've already taken that first step. And that's amazing. Now, there are a couple of things, a couple of ground rules, pretty much table stakes if you want to be a GDG organizer, because you got to have that GDG chapter. To have a GDG chapter, first of all, you want to get on Meetup and make sure that you filled out the forms, because it's all about forms, and send them back to Kubra and the team over at Google so they can post you on the Pro network on Meetup. That way you get listed with the global GDGs. You're part of the family, as we've mentioned all morning. When you're using Meetup, the roles are amazing, and use them. Meetup does have an organizer and co-organizer roles. Use those. It has an additional 2, an event organizer and an assistant organizer. While they're great titles and ways that you can control access to Meetup, Google doesn't look at those when they send out the forms or the emails. They only send them to the organizers and co-organizers. And again, as was mentioned earlier this morning, Google sees no difference between those titles despite what Meetup says, but they don't leverage the other 2 roles in their scripting. So you'll want to make sure that you are listed as an organizer, and if you are, to move yourself into that group to remain on those mailing lists and communications. Linda.
Can I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
Do we have to submit these forms after each meetup we have, or only? No. Do we have to submit these feedback or forms after each meetup we organize, or only the ones like that they are required by Google? I don't really know. I didn't submit nothing so far. I did 6 meetups in Flutter. I didn't submit
For every event you host, there will be a form that is sent out. You should submit that back. If not, make sure you're updating those metrics in Meetup. We can discuss afterwards, and we can make sure that we get that information back into the system. There are a couple of websites, a couple of tools that are available to help you know which ones you've missed forms for and can submit through those sort of roll-ups. And for those, for the audio here, the question was around, is a form required after each event? And the simple answer is yes. There's a form. There's always a form. That's okay, and that's perfectly understandable. That's why we're here. We're here to let you know that if you're not seeing forms, then we're doing something wrong.
I don't know what to find this for.
Exactly. We'll take care of that. Thank you, and thank you for bringing that up. And again, feel free to interrupt me because I'm going to present the same things. So, the next requirement is an event every 90 days. Now that seems like a long time, and it is because we prefer you run them as often as you want and as often as you can, but no more than 90 days between events. And that's a huge one. I will say that GDG Wilmington, we had an organizer. Sadly, she left the state. But before she did, she threw monthly recurring meetups on our calendar, which is great because I would forget to run a meetup until I got the emails at 30 days and 60 days and 90 days saying I was delisted. So having a meetup at least once a month on the calendar, on the books, we have one that's designed for basically a entry level, get people together, get the core group around, and we have unique and interesting talks every month. Sometimes they go a little deeper depending on what we're looking to do, but they're almost always introductory, and it helps keep us active in those times where we may have to cancel an event. You don't want to wait until day 89 to get the email saying that you're going to be delisted if you don't have a meetup and realize that you can't do this for another 5 days. Make sure that you're actively running events, but definitely once every 90 days. And of course, the code of conduct. There's a code of conduct. That's where it's located. If you want to pull the wonderful quick answer from the community page that Google has for us, it's huge. Enforce it. Make sure everyone knows you have one. You can bring it up at every meeting, typically at the start. If you have events where you're taking photography, you can mention that if people don't want to be photographed, that they have that option if they have said option. Or you can provide alternatives for that. Also, let them know how they can inform you of issues with the code of conduct. Whether how they can do that, whether that's in person, whether that's to an organizer, whether it's to the leadership team on Meetup, however they feel most comfortable. But let them know that every incident will be handled and taken care of. Now these code of conduct, the code of conduct listed on that URL is actually made by Google and the community. So it's pretty well-rounded, and it's meant to be inclusive. And that's all I got to say about that, I think. Sorry. Like I said. So you're a GDG. That's awesome, and you're listed, and you're on Pro. And now you've got the code of conduct. So how do you talk with your team? How do you talk with the team? How do you talk with the group and the members? Meetup, obviously. It's the official communication channel these days. There's a mailing list option that they offer. Make sure that you've set that up, that you've turned it on. Event RSVPs, people who have stated that they'll be attending your events that month, you can email them. It's actually really nice. It's really great to remind them a few days before the event that they've signed up to attend. And if they are currently unable to, that they can change that RSVP to make sure you get better counts. Go on social media. You can go on Facebook. There's Twitter. There's Google. Well, there was Google Plus. You can totally go out on your social media sites, create a page for your community. That's why they exist. There are so many pages out there, and your community should definitely be one of them. As it was mentioned earlier, cross-post between your community and other communities in the area, and let other groups post to your event calendar so that they know, so everyone in the region knows what's going on. And then, of course, follow up. An event's great, but without telling people that it was great to see them or to let them know that they were acknowledged and cared for, they're not going to want to come back. How many people here have a non-meetup page for their GDG? How many people here have a custom domain for their GDG? It's really great. These are all things and ways to help advertise your GDG and make it easier for people to find you. And that's the best part about it is that they bring people closer to the metal of your group, as it were. And so you talk about your GDG at the grocery store. No, talk at the grocery store. Don't walk up to people, hi, I got a GDG, you should come. That's going to be a little creepy. It's not many people want that. But if you see people you know, if you're catching up with someone that you haven't seen in a while, mention your GDG. They may be interested. It's something that's going on. At other meetups, this was again mentioned before, cross-selling your group. At work, people that you work with, some of them may not know that you run a GDG. Of course they should. You've probably talked about it a bunch. They may need a refresher. At conferences and trade shows, I think one of the best things that I've ever seen is at Cloud Next, when you're walking around. Now, I work for Capital One, and my badge says Capital One, and every time they asked me at Cloud Next about Capital One, because it's a large company, they wanted to sell their products to me, and I said, I'm not in that section of the company that works with your tooling, but I do work at the community. And it would be great, because you're in the DC area, because you're near my community, if you could help us out by bringing speakers or giving us a place to host our events. All of these things help out. And again, many of these companies didn't realize that a GDG was close to their region, that they could come to these events, that they could leverage the community and the organizers therein. Of course, some of them will have to be informed of what a GDG is. I think the largest problem that we have as GDG organizers is letting people know that we are a Google developer group, which means we are Google sponsored, but we are not Google run. Another thing that you can do is remind them that it's not just Google content. Have a Microsoft speaker come. Have an Amazon speaker come. All of these things, leverage what your community wants to know about. You can also talk about your GDG when you get questions like, where do you work? Because this is work. Every one of us volunteer our time to do more work after work. What do you do? Oh, I write code and I also organize a GDG. And then what's that logo on your t-shirt? If you've been to as many trade conferences or even just at this event or at other events, you've got logos on lots of things and people want to know what that logo means. It's definitely a great icebreaker and it gets people interested and it may even get them showing up at your meetings. Has anyone here ever had a logo on their t-shirt end up in a new member to their GDG? Oh, good, it's not just me. Perfect. I just want to make sure. Now, if you're a new GDG, and this was already brought up, thankfully, but understand the other community groups in your area. And if there's a similar offering, make sure you're attending. Make sure you know what that group is providing to their members and whether or not it's something that you can augment or that you can work together with. Let them know that you're not poaching, as Michael said earlier. Not that they'll think that you are, but it's always nice to bring a collaborative atmosphere to the group. I do want to, building a supportive community starts with community support. You can't build anything if no one wants to work with you. That's a big problem, and so making sure that you're open to working with the community means that they are willing to work with you as well. How many people here have been to the other meetups? Oh, good. Everyone has been to something else. Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you. And you can leverage these other groups, as was mentioned earlier, with speakers, with content, with memberships. Obviously, talk about your GDG at these events during the pre-meeting hour, half hour, when everyone's getting organized and checked in. offer reciprocation of speakers, of advertisement, of sponsorships. If a sponsor doesn't work well for your GDG or your community, feel free to send that on to them. It helps everyone. And that's really what you want to make sure is that everyone in the community benefits, regardless of whether it's through you or one of the other community group offerings in your area. And so, obviously recognition and getting people there, it's all great, but what's successful and what's success? The answer is, I don't know. I'm not in your community. I know what my community, I know what I want for my community. I know what my success is. And then once I achieve that, what's next? And then what's next? The answer is it's not an end goal. It's just another waypoint along the way to making a better community and providing more opportunities for those that you live with and in your area. And it's a combination not only of what the community needs, but what you're able to provide that community. If you overextend yourself, you're not going to help yourself or your community to the extent that you could if you made it smaller or to the extent that's available with the resources that you can spend. And it's always good to reevaluate and make sure that you're not trying to take on too much, and that you're trying to do what's right, not just for the community and for yourself, but for your health and for the health of the community as a whole. And so I can't solve that answer for you or for anyone here. If you need to take a break, take a break. If you need more organizers, find co-organizers. All of these things will help you run a more efficient and more supportive group. Now, at the end of each slide, I have these wonderful achievements that you've been seeing, and it's really the point of that is that you really need to stop and realize that everything you do as a GDG organizer is successful. Everything that you have done, everything you do is successful. All these little things, being an organizer is a success. You being here, just mentioning the code of conduct, that gets you an achievement. People know about it now. And this is just a small smattering of random achievements that you've just by listening to me talk, you now have. I have a great one. Just last month, this past meetup, at our monthly meetup, I had 5 people attend and 9 pizzas. Has anyone else had that problem? Right. See, they're all badges. Leftovers, right? Well, I sent the. It's actually on there. I think I called it doomsday planning, having more food than attendees. But everyone. That's the thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a problem. It happens, and you have a story to tell now, right? Oh my God! Remember that? How about the time when I thought 5 people were going to show up, and I had the entire dev team from the company instead. Well, I need to get more pizzas. All these things happen. They're not bad, and obviously you'll live through them, because at the end of the day, it ends, and you'll have to submit the form and take that to the next event. And that's my presentation. Thank you.